Welcome, and thanks for joining today's webinar, hosted by Novolo and First Health Advisory. In this session today, we're going to dive into OT cyber security. You know, it's a really important topic as we think about cyber protections for medical devices and healthcare. And it's certainly a topic that I'm talking about a lot these days as we think about really that threat and risk as it relates to vulnerabilities and threats in the wild. We'll talk more about that today. With me, we'll dive into, with me is Carter Groome. We'll do introductions here in just a minute. Here's our agenda today, though. We're going to go through really around cybersecurity readiness, and Carter's going to talk about what his organization does to help healthcare organizations look at their cybersecurity processes, technology, and what they need to look at across their business to address those cybersecurity threats. I'm going to take us through really a little bit of background on Novolo and what our business is as it relates to software for healthcare. We'll talk about the cybersecurity business challenges. Why is this a topic we want to dive into today, and what are the key things we're seeing in the market? And then I'll take you through an actual demonstration, show you how Novolo's OT cybersecurity solution works, and ultimately gets clients to that next level of readiness when we think about cybersecurity protections. So my name is Ben Pearson. I'm our Vice President of Global Marketing at Novolo. Been with Novolo for around 5 years now since the company got started, and worked around the healthcare organizations and many providers and service providers in the healthcare industry over the last few years, and really excited to have this conversation today with you. Joining me today is Carter Groome. And Carter, I'll let you do a quick introduction, but Carter's the Chief Executive Officer at First Health Advisory. Carter, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben, and thank you to everybody on this webinar for taking time out of your day to join. I wanted to give some context to our approach at First Health as we work closely with Nuvolo and its customers in a variety of technical and operational capacities. We're a services firm collaborating with HTM, biomed, clinical engineers, really to close a blind spot in your device inventory. We call it gaining visibility, and the security vulnerabilities associated with those assets. And as a part of that collaboration, we bring a mix of specialists in security, networking, IT, program managers, all with HTM experience at the core. And although we work in the post-market arena, we pay really close attention to pre-market innovations, regulatory issues, and the policy environment to address and prepare for challenges that might impact your compliance, your reporting, even your processes. And so we spend a lot of time helping organizations select, integrate, and operationalize what we call automated asset inventory technologies. Some of you may have heard of these: Order, Medigate, Zingbox, CyberMDX, Cylara, to name a few. And we refer to them as medical IoT or MIoT. You might have heard HIoT, visibility and vulnerability tools. And so when we mix all of this together, it provides an option to health delivery organizations who may not have the internal resources or skill sets to develop a risk management program around these devices. And it goes without saying that the HTM world has been absolutely turned upside down this year. And you might be thinking, am I or is our department even ready for all of this? Should I just keep on doing what I'm doing? And with that in mind, I've posed some rhetorical questions for consideration. And so we can jump to the next slide, Ben. I also want to add, you in HTM, you've always had accountability for this fleet of devices, yet the responsibility of mitigating cyber risk specific to these assets in many organizations has become a hot potato. It's causing some turbulence, to say the least. And whether you report up through IT or separately through supply chain or even a different department, HTM has never really had the tools to address cyber-related risk beyond perhaps vendor-provided guidance or documents like the TIR 57. So, these questions are just to kind of start thinking about or themes that we discuss with our client base. How are you positioning and preparing your organization for this new or newer responsibility and the visibility that comes with these technologies? What's your organization's current status on visibility and vulnerability tools? If you have a platform like Order or Medigate, Cylera, are you engaged in understanding what data is available to you and your team? Or if you don't have a tool, it's a good bet you'll be getting one soon, and you'll certainly want to participate in that selection process or even the deployment of that technology. And so to go a little bit further, how will that information that you start getting impact your daily work routines and those that work in your department? And what new challenges will this visibility, vulnerability information present? It's all, a bunch of information, and you might just think, this is just a lot of noise here. How do I even know what to take seriously or what I can accept as a risk and just move on? And even more so, are those decisions aligned with your organization's kind of broader risk appetite? We think about what opportunities these technologies present as well. There's certainly great opportunity in this information for a variety of reasons, but it's not going to be of value to you in HTM if it's not in the context of how you manage the department, how you address patient safety, and how you maintain operational uptime. And then, kind of finally, do you even have the resources and the skills to address that cyber risk? And how do you bring together those technologies, those processes, and those resources to create efficiencies and reduce risk? And so with all of those things to consider, trying to figure out what resources and processes that need to be looked at, the technologies that are utilized, it can be overwhelming to say the least. And so, I think about how do you even begin to figure out this puzzle. And so I put together a little chart, Ben, if you want to go to the next slide. And one way we try to think about this is to define integration on HTM terms. We hear a lot about integration, and it probably means something different to everybody in your organization. But when we think about integration in the context of medical device risk management, we consider technical aspects, is the data being shared, as well as operational aspects. Are your processes or governance aligned with IT, security, facilities, the clinicians? And so I've tried to illustrate 3 levels of maturity that might help with a little clarity on this topic. And at the highest level, get a sense for what's being done in other organizations that are trying to simplify this challenge in a way that doesn't overwhelm you with cyber speak. There's really 3 levels here, and I guess technically there's a level 0, if you will, where if you have no automated way to monitor your inventory, maybe you're still getting that information the old-fashioned way. We call it sneaker net. Where you're walking around and making sure those devices are in your CMMS system. recall my earlier comments about getting a tool. If you're at level 0, you're lagging your peers no matter what size organization you are. Now at level 1, these tools, the CMMS system and the MIOT visibility and vulnerability tools are connected. You're getting information from your fleet, from the devices on the network, and perhaps you're getting some great information, but it's not flowing into your CMMS system, your work platform and system of record. It's simply not interfaced. Where level 2, it's interfaced. You're starting to get some context on these devices. And so, for example, when the security team says, hey, we've got a critical vulnerability in a rolling C-arm and you need to address it, you'll at least have the confidence to know that you're looking at the same device in your system as they are in their system of record. And in many cases, you'll still need to get remediation or mitigation information and most likely consultation from the security team, but it's not truly integrated, which is what we're striving for here in level 3. That's where information and the operations become one. Your workflows are standardized, and when appropriate, tasks can be automated, and you can make essential decisions with less effort and more intelligence than ever before. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben from Nuvolo and have him share how organizations are getting to this level 3 integration. Thanks so much.
Carter, thank you for that. And by the way, it's really interesting when I'm talking to hospitals and providers around the country, they're at every level of this maturity curve, right? To even your point, level 0, where they haven't selected an endpoint MIOT, monitoring system like an Order, like a Medigate, et cetera, yet, all the way up where organizations are saying, well, I can just hook my Order directly into my CMMS myself. And we've seen that kind of the challenges organizations are faced in doing that. So I want to talk a little bit about exactly what we're doing at the level 3 true mature integrated model with Novolo in tying together your OT cybersecurity systems to your CMMS with an actual true orchestration, automation, really model that allows that not just now, but ongoing cybersecurity protections and automation for your business. So Carter, this is great. You guys, if you have questions while we're going, by the way, feel free to use the chat option. Glad to field any questions. Carter and I will be fielding those here at the end, but feel free to use that as well. A little bit about Novolo. Novolo, we've been in business now, and our focus has always been around healthcare. We are the leading CMMS connected hospitals. We call it software company. That's what we do. And so organizations across the country are using us for their CMMS product today. Naturally, we extended into the OT cybersecurity capability as well to drive that orchestration. For us, we have that source of truth, your asset inventory, your medical device inventory already. Why not protect it? Why not drive automation and create work orders when there's issues or when there needs to be action taken? We have over 1,000 healthcare customers using Novolo, whether that be our direct providers, that also is our healthcare service providers that use our solution as well for their customers. And we're designed for both the HTM groups and your facilities departments in healthcare. We're purpose-built. We can handle your joint commission audits, your DNV audits, your environment of care rounding. All that capability is pre-built into our solution and tie into a lot of these key capabilities like ECRI and other RTLS systems in your hospitals. So really purpose-built and really excited to share and show you some of that capability today. We also have key industry experts within our staff. We have folks that joined us from SSM Health, Intermountain Health, and others that are bringing that industry expertise and continue to drive that focus in the healthcare business. What solutions do we provide? I mentioned that we have a CMMS system. Obviously, we call that maintenance. That includes everything from asset management to work order management, your PMs, all of that capability pre-built in and designed for healthcare. But what we're going to dive into today is specifically our OT cybersecurity capability that truly brings you up to that level 3 functionality that you need for your business when you truly want that ongoing response and automation when there's an issue, when there's a vulnerability, when there's an action that needs to be taken. but we do cover the rest of your other departments. For your example, your facilities teams are also a part of our solution set as well. But why are clients talking to Carter or myself about OT cybersecurity? And you guys, I've been around since WannaCry was out in 2017. I was talking to a big national health system last year around Bluekeep. And to that point, we were seeing the challenges when those things came out. When there was a ransomware attack on connected medical devices back in 2017 with WannaCry, organizations had to scramble. They had to get people to go figure out what to do. They had to redirect patients in some cases to other hospitals if devices were down. It was a major impact. We saw the same thing last year with Bluekeep. Organizations had to figure out what devices were potentially vulnerable to that out-of-date operating system and how do we take action. In the end, these four things are I think about a top priority for healthcare organizations, right? How do we make sure the environment is safe, right? How do we look at that environment of care? How do we make sure we protect our brand? The last thing a hospital wants to be is in the news for an attack like WannaCry, as we saw back in 2017. And also patient outcomes. We want to make sure that in the end, it's about the patients, and it's about making sure those devices we're putting patients on are safe for patient use. And then availability and performance. You all may only have a couple imaging devices or CTs or MRs in your environment that you can put patients on. If those things are down, that's a major impact related to revenue as well to your business for those elective type procedures. When I look at the real challenge, and Carter covered quite a bit of this, and your organization does a lot on this, Carter, it's not just technology. We're obviously in a technology company, but it's about the people, process, and technology. And we're seeing HTM organizations even look to transform how they run this new functional part of their business. Carter mentioned that where do we staff? Who's ultimately responsible for medical device cybersecurity? In some cases, HTM departments are adding a net new headcount to go be that person that is a cybersecurity expert within their department. Other organizations are bringing that within their IT departments as it relates to their cyber practices there as well. So we're seeing a couple different options related to that. When we think about what kind of has driven this challenge, certainly the fact that more and more medical devices are getting connected to the network plays a role. But also through hospital acquisitions, we've been seeing this for about the last 10 years as hospitals buying other hospitals. Well, because of that, a lot of times there's technology sprawl. We don't have a single source of inventory data. I was down talking to a hospital in Texas here a couple of years ago, and I said, do you even know what devices you have? And of those, which ones are connected to your network? They didn't know. And that was really a foundational item we talked about, is how do we get to a single source of truth? How do we have single inventory data source that now we can actually look to protect? And that's one of the things we think about that CMMS modernization that a lot of organizations are looking at as that first step in the journey to getting to a trusted inventory, trusted source of data that now we can actually add the IP address, MAC address, and critical information to protect that data, right? We think about the operating, the process that organizations are doing when it comes to onboarding brand new medical devices. How are we procuring those devices? Are doctors just walking in with new devices that they're getting to try? Are they actually going through a proper onboarding and security checks as they're part of their onboarding procedures? And are we gathering the key data points that we need as part of that onboarding process, right? Are we actually getting the software version, firmware version, MAC and IP address and data that's relevant related to that asset inventory? Third, are we following standard naming conventions? There's industry standard naming conventions that Novolo already provides, things like aligning to ECRI's UMDNS, Unique Medical Device Naming Standard, looking at the FDA's Unique Device Identifier data standard that came out a few years ago. Those are options. We provide those as part of the core platform that you can align your data against. And lastly is looking at where your maintenance is happening. And it's not just maintenance for your HTM department, it's also work order management, asset management maintenance for your facilities and other groups in the business as well, like pharmacy, nutrition services, linens, et cetera. So these are the big kind of four buckets when you think about that people, process, and technology areas that we need to look at as we're looking to address OT cybersecurity. So, and Carter kind of talked about those different levels, those level 1s through level 3. And we think about each of those levels. Now, in most organizations, that haven't brought in one of those example order mitigate toolings, in a lot of cases, they have security systems running, right? The IT has various security tools. Well, they're scanning the network, they're looking at for issues, and this is a lot of cases that I see when we first start this process. So we've got an event, something happens. We found a new device that didn't exist before. We have a security vulnerability. We have an active exploit, data's leaving our network that shouldn't be. But security gets this alert and notification, but they don't know what really enough detail about that device. IT doesn't know, is it a medical device? Where's it physically located? What building it's in? What department? Is it surgery? Is it ER? What department owns it? Who do I contact? And how do we remediate the problem? In a lot of cases, it requires phone calls, emails, and someone physically going out and finding this device. Your HTM and your facilities departments are running business as usual, right? They're doing their PMs, they're doing their rounds, they're doing their regular procedures, but they don't realize that there's a medical device that's potentially impacted, that's connected to the network. And that's a lot of cases what we're seeing today. With Nuvolo, we also have a pre-built integration and certification ongoing as part of our ongoing technical relationship and partnership with all of the endpoint security products on the market. So what's great about this is organizations that have already made an investment in Order, Zingbox with Palo Alto Networks, Medigate, CyberMDX, Scenario, Assembly, and we keep adding more and more every month to this list. What organizations get is they don't have to custom build an integration to their CMMS system. With Novolo, it's all pre-built. So we already have mapped every field within these systems for MAC address, host name, all the key data points are already mapped. And what's great about this is now we can automate with playbooks when something occurs. So think of these as your event systems. And I'll talk more about this in a second. As Order has an event, Novolo, we pre-built a playbook for discovery events, for example. It's a brand new medical device that didn't previously exist in your inventory that Order found. What do? Well, let's get this actually creating a work order automatically to your clinical engineering HTM team and have them actually go and properly make sure this device is onboarded before it's ready for patient use. Those are playbooks that are already pre-built in that you get as part of that solution. We also have data feeds if you are at a level 1 or at a level 0 and don't have one of these solutions. We also have pre-built in the data feeds from MITRE and NIST, so that basically you have a pre-built set of vulnerability data as a starting point if you're early in this process. So we have levels that we can provide to you depending on where you're at in your maturity curve. When you look at what the future state can hold at that level 3, this is what we're talking about specifically. So we have our endpoint monitoring and security solutions that you're looking at or hopefully already working on getting in your environment. Now you've added our Nuvolo OT Cyber Security solution to the Nuvolo CMMS system. And think about it, right? We have all the actions that are coming in. We have discovery events, alerts of information that now we can correlate against your trusted inventory. What's the device, right? Is it an imaging device? Is it a pump? What is the issue? Who needs to take action? And how do we take the action? Security can actually see the same issue within their system as your HTM team. And in the end, we have one place to go to look at that data. We can also pass information back to these systems. So Order now knows this is the owning department. This is exactly where this physical device is actually located at within your facility. So really powerful in being able to not just pass and automate and orchestrate that automated work, but also share information back with these endpoint protection systems. Really powerful. And again, that's where we can truly automate, orchestrate, not just now, but in the future. As we add and continue to grow that portfolio of orchestration toolkits for you from a workflow perspective, you guys can take advantage of those as part of the offering. I'd like to dive into a demonstration now and show you exactly what I mean by this, because I think it's really important to see really how this actually operates and works for your business. Feel free to use the chat feature again. It's in there. If you have questions on that, I'm glad to field those. We will have a formal Q&A here after the brief demonstration. All right, so let's actually dive in and look at what we can actually see if I'm in the HTM department and I actually have a cybersecurity person watching for vulnerabilities, watching for discovery events. What do we do? So let's talk a little bit about this OT cybersecurity module that we provide as part of our overall solution set. So one of the things I mentioned is the fact that we have key data sources and field mappings. We can actually data source and data map all of your key products. So with Order, I already have all of your mappings. I actually have every field mapping for Order, so I know IP addresses, MAC addresses, all of that data. You don't have to figure that out or custom build an integration. We've seen clients do that. You turn on Novolo, it's already functional, already working already able to update all of your asset inventory data as order finds information out on those connected medical devices. As that data comes in, we're actually able to process that. We bring in discovery information, we bring in security information from those systems and process it with workflows and identification systems. So we have matching rules that allow us to take information that says, we found a match, order has information of a brand new device. We didn't find a match. We actually need to create and stage a device that somebody needs to go out and actually properly onboard. I'll show you that in a second. And what do we do if we actually have an issue? How do we alert and notify and send out information when there is an actual problem? So let's actually go in, let's actually look at that homepage for a second and walk you through some specific examples. So I'll open my dashboard here and look at my security events that are going on. So let's actually start with my discovery first, because this one's obviously important. New medical device shows up on your network that you didn't have in your inventory. Guess what? I want to know about that, right? And I want to actually make sure that that device is in my inventory accurately and has been gone through all the proper electrical safety checks and everything that it needs to do before we actually put a patient on that device. So here I can see all the devices that have been coming into my network, and I can click in and see the data. So here's devices that are pending verification. They have not been properly onboarded yet, but they are ready to go. So let me just grab one of these medical devices and take a quick peek at it. What happens here is this device, which is in my CMMS inventory now, because this is fully tied in, I can see that we know a little bit of data. We know where it's physically located. It's a ventilator. We know a little bit of details around the manufacturer and the model, right? We can actually see any other technical information that came on this. This came in from Medigate specifically. We can see the data source where it came from. So now we have enough information. You'll also notice, if we look at the service history on this device, Novolo, with our playbook for discovery events, automatically created a work order to actually properly verify and kicked off a ticket to the HTM department to go look at this. So that was all automated. That automated response and orchestration was pre-built in as part of our solution. That's just one example. There's many other playbooks that we have pre-built in for vulnerabilities and issues on your network. So great, we actually can see this work order. The technician actually needs to go out. I can bring up the work order and we can take a look at it for a second. What's great about this is now someone actually is going and taking a look. There's all the data that came over from Medigate in this example that they can look at, and they can go through the process of bringing this in. Looks like there's a question couple coming in. Let me take a look. First question I'll cover at the very end. Looks like there was a question around discovery tools that we recommend. You guys, we integrate with almost every single one of the medical device cybersecurity products in the market. We keep adding more. Certainly, if you have one that wasn't on the previous list, we can add that as well. Yes, another question is, do you also integrate with Tenable Nessus? We support that one as well, Christian. Yeah, good question. Great. So anyway, that's one example. So that's a discovery event. Obviously, that discovery event playbook is pre-built. Found a new device, not in my inventory, automate the work and the action to go get it properly onboarded and now in my inventory, accurately tagged and properly onboarded to the business. So that's one example. The next is around vulnerability management. So again, if order finds a vulnerability on the network, that vulnerability could be, like I mentioned, WannaCry that was out there, Bluekeep, and any others that keep coming out. This continues to be tracked and monitored and managed. Now I can actually see, let's see what open device vulnerabilities are out here. Here's, I got a 14 Alaris pump sitting here. I see this one came in from order. This one's not critical, but we can see its detail that came over. So this one has a vulnerability. There's actually a recall on this device. So that's what's going on. It's an FDA recall. Here's the FDA recall number. So we got great data. And again, HTM now has all this data at their fingertips in real time, right? So now we can see the work order that was auto kicked off for this remediation for this particular issue. Auto kicked off, now they can actually work on this. What's great about these things is we can also look at other aspects. So let's look at security events, not just vulnerabilities. So if there is an active exploit that's going on, let's take a peek at one of those. 6 critical active exploits. One came in from Medigate. Let's take a look at this one. So 7 devices. So one of the neat things about these exploits isn't just that I can see the exploit, because the key for me, and Carter, you mentioned this earlier, it's about getting the noise out of your system, right? I want to know what do I actually need to take action on in the HTM department. You only have so many resources to do things. I want to prioritize where we're spending our time and energy, especially around vulnerabilities and events. what's great about this is here's an active exploit that's going on. So there's 7 devices, 4 different models that are affected. We can go through the details of this specifically, but you'll see, you can read through that. But now we auto matched. You saw that we have that auto matching rule functionality. I auto matched this. These are the 3, there's 3 affected devices that I auto matched against this. And I auto kicked off 3 work orders to my 3 clinical engineers that need to actually go take a look at this. We also kicked the ticket over to IT to make sure they're aware of this. So now security and IT can see this ticket. We can see the vulnerability and all affected assets. So when Bluekeep came out, for example, that we can actually see all the assets that were running that out-of-date operating system and automatically create a work order or a project work order to go touch those devices and either patch them if the OEM has a patch for it, or get them somehow protected through whitelisting or firewalls, depending on what that remediation need is available. So really powerful. Again, pre-built workflows. You don't have to develop these. Novolo, we built these for you, and pre-built integrations to those partners, those technology partners I mentioned. That's something we maintain. That's a technology partnership we have with all of those vendors, so that we keep that up to date. As they upgrade, as order upgrades, as Metagate upgrades, we continue to certify that for them. And also our product, as it upgrades, stays certified with those products. Those playbooks continue to be added so that all that automation response, you get that. You don't have to build that on your own. So, you know, that's in the end, that's what we're talking about when we think about helping you drive automation, orchestration, and response for your medical devices that are connected to your networks. Again, as you've made those investments or are looking to make those investments in those endpoint protections, drive that automation as well. I know we're at the bottom of the hour. I want to stay true to around 30 minutes. Like someone's hand was raised. If you have questions, feel free to drop those in. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Q&A at this point. And I'd love to open it up for questions and answers and see what other questions I can answer for the folks on the call, or Carter can answer as well. Good questions so far that have come in, though. Appreciate those. And if someone had their hand raised, feel free to use the chat feature if you do have a question. Okay. It's like a quiet group. Okay. Carter, I'm going to give everyone about 2 more minutes. Looks like here we go. Got a question dropping in. Let's see what we got. Great. Yeah, one quick follow-up. The question is the webinar is going to be recorded? We absolutely will record it. We'll share this with you afterwards, and this will be provided to you. We'll also have this out on our YouTube and Nuvolo.com site as well, so you'll be able to watch this after the fact. The question, Robert, good question. How much of this is ServiceNow versus Novolo built? Everything that you saw in that demonstration was actually Novolo built. We actually built it under the hood. It is still using ServiceNow's engine and infrastructure, but all of the development and all the capabilities you saw around our CMMS and all of our OT Cyber Security is all developed by us. Reporting and analytics still does use ServiceNow's reporting analytics engine as well. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question. If there's anything specific you want me to touch on, Robert, I can. Yeah. Great. Next question is, can I plug in multiple discovery solutions into Novolo's OT cybersecurity solution? That's a great question. We absolutely can. So if you have more than one data feed, so if you're running Cisco ICE and you're running Order, or if you're running multiple tools and you actually want to take advantage of multiple data points for discovery or vulnerability or threats, absolutely. We can support not just a single data feed, but actually multiple as well. Yeah, great question. Great question. Keep them coming if there's any others. Great. All right, we'll give everybody 1 more minute for any final questions. Otherwise, we will wrap up. And you guys, you have our contact information right here on the screen. If you would like to have a follow-up deep dive further, reach out to myself or Carter. I'm glad to provide any other questions and answers for you. Appreciate it. Robert, thank you for that feedback. Glad to. Oh, good question. Good question, Dustin. So your question was, we will soon have a CMMS, RTLS, and Order can these all talk? Absolutely. So depending on what, so hopefully your CMMS is Novolo. And then your RTLS, depending on which one you're using, we do integrate with RTLS systems and can visualize where devices are visually on a floor plan. That ties into our space, as I mentioned kind of earlier in the demonstration there. So we can actually show you where that device is, and we can tie in with your RTLS system to actually pinpoint where it currently is at. So if you're using like a Stanley AeroScout or a Centrac or Impinj or one of the other RTLS systems, we certainly can look to tie into that. And then Order, we have a pre-built integration. So you get the value of being able to tie right into Order with those workflows that I just talked about: device discovery, vulnerabilities, events, and alerts. Absolutely. Hopefully that answered your question, Dustin. Another question came in. Another question was around when will utilization numbers be incorporated with the cyber numbers? Is this going to, is this going to come up with time? Yeah, I mean, utilization metrics can actually, so one of the things we track around assets isn't just uptime, downtime. We can also bring in utilization measures as well, and that's something we store against an asset. As part of our PM scheduling, we can do calendar-based scheduling, floating schedules, but also utilization-based schedules. So one of the things that either you're looking at, if you're looking at uptime, downtime, that's something we could tie in related to that. We also can utilize that data as it relates to doing PM scheduling, right? Maybe you want to look to schedule in addition to your scheduled Joint Commission schedule or AEM schedule, but maybe you also want to look at utilization measures, or when's the device being used the least, to be able to schedule that time to have an HTM tech engineer go out and actually do the work. Dustin, hopefully that answered your question. If not, feel free to ask a follow-up there. Great, Barbara, good question. Let's see what you got. What attributes do you use to match assets found in Discovery to those existing in the CMMS? So Barbara, we use a number of measures. We look at the MAC address, we look at the device name itself, we look at serial number, we look at IP address. There's about 5 other measures we're looking at. And there's a priority order. So we find a MAC address where our confidence level is pretty accurate that that's the real device, and that's the matching algorithm we use. But MAC address, host name, serial number, those type of data points are what we're primarily looking at. IP address as well. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Barbara? If not, follow up on that one. Cool, good questions. Okay, give everybody one more minute. Otherwise, this is great feedback, you guys. Hopefully this was valuable. Hopefully, again, we sparked some thought and interest in exactly what some of the challenges you might be faced with. My wife's a clinical engineer herself, so I hear from her around some of the challenges that she faced within her hospital. So you guys, it's important, and this is like I said, it's why we wanted to put this session on for you all today. And like I mentioned, feel free, reach out to myself, Carter. Glad to have follow-ups with any one of you if you'd like to learn more and hear more about what we're doing in this particular space. Okay, I don't see any other more questions coming in. Carter, one, I want to thank you for your time as well. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar. I appreciate your participation and sharing what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, and to everybody who joined. Just a comment, there was a previous question on recommendations for these automated discovery tools, and although we're partisan, we've helped many organizations through that selection process. Some of these tools are better fits for certain organizations, and so if there are any more detailed questions you have, we're certainly here to help. Thank you guys so much.
Great, thanks, Carter. Excellent. Appreciate it, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.